Hello, hi, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the webinar in Leverage the Internal Audit Maturity Model during the crisis, organized by LEORON Institute. So my name is Katerina, and I will actually be the host of this webinar. And I'm pretty sure you already, all of you know me, as you've been receiving a couple of emails in the past days. Well, as you already know, the instructor and the expert trainer is Daniel Lebel. He has over 20 years experience in internal audit, risk management, and financial management in many industries, such as financial services, manufacturing, information technology, pharmaceutical, transportation, and higher education. He is currently working as the Chief Audit Executive at the University of Quebec in Montreal, and he is actually a trainer and mentor for the internal auditors during their CA certification process. So we'll basically, before we start with the webinar, I just like to inform you that I'm not sure whether you can see, but on the right side, there you have the questions box. So I would strongly encourage you to ask any questions that you might have throughout this webinar. First, we'll let Daniel Lebel present, and after that, we'll have the Q&A, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. I just want to inform you guys as well on this, that we have some issues with the camera, so that's why we won't be able to see Daniel Lebel. However, I'm pretty sure that you're going to enjoy it. Daniel, I'm just going to let you take over now.
Good. Thank you very much and welcome everyone. Wherever you are in the world today, it's a pleasure for me to be with you today as a Chief Audit Executive, because we're seeing some rapid changes in the limelight of internal audit during the past weeks or so. Like Katerina was saying, I'm a board member at IAA Canada, just finishing a 3-year term. My passion is I'm a CIE exam coach in America, in Middle East, Asia, Africa, but now mostly online due to the restriction that we all have. And I'm actually a speaker at the IAA International Conference on a regular basis, talking about new trends in internal audit, but as well as a CIE exam coach as well. So welcome to you, everyone. I hope everyone is safe at home. We'll make sure that we will be using this 90 minutes particularly with good timing, and make sure that I will be answering your question at the end of the presentation. So the agenda for today, I think we need to have a very full agenda. First, we will have a reality check and an agility check as well. I think it's important for us to be realistic, but to be agile at the same time. And we'll see what will be the impact for internal auditors. The internal audit capability model, we'll speak about it in a few seconds as well. We'll see how to leverage the model during the crisis and how it's the better usage for you to make sure that it will be adding value to the organization as well. We'll conclude on where we will make a difference during this crisis, and we'll end up with a question period as well. Okay, first, a reality check and agility check for the internal audit function. We want to make sure that to answer this question after the crisis, to answer where was the internal audit during the crisis. The crisis is something that we have never faced in the past. It's affecting all the world. We will see what will be the impact of internal audit during this crisis. We want to be able to answer this question afterward. Okay, where was internal audit? Okay, we had a crisis, and where were you adding value as an internal auditor during the crisis or so? Okay. So the recent surveys are showing that, okay, first we need to have a reality check. Okay, we are not the one that are keeping the lights on in the organization. Okay, we are not the one keeping the lights on. We want to make sure that we will be understanding this. I've been talking with hundreds of people around the world, and they are telling me that, okay, we are not the one that are making sure that we are keeping the light on, but we have a very important role regarding this when we are talking about keeping the operation on. Okay. 66% of internal audit department had to put project on hold and may have scope limitation during this time. Okay, we want to make sure that we will be able to react to this. Okay, If we are a department and we have to put some project on, we need to make sure that we'll prioritize them as soon as possible. Okay. Some of you may have some scope limitation. You used to work with Nicole in accounting, but guess what? Nicole is not able to answer your question because she's no longer working for the organization. Okay. So the initial strategic response are focused on assessing short-term impacts. Okay. I want to make sure, I'm pretty glad that people are doing this related to the recent survey, that the initial strategic response are focused on assessing short-term impacts. 78% of the people who are answered this question said, okay, we are focusing on assessing short-term impacts related to internal audit and the organization. Okay. And most of the organization have seen a change in their risk appetite. It's important to understand that the way we were working like 3 or 4 weeks ago regarding risk and risk appetite may have changed tremendously in the organization. So you need to make sure that we are tackling this on a fashionable way. So the question is, should we keep our annual audit plan? We have done an annual plan in the past, and we've done some strategic work. We've looked at all the risk in the organization, and we have developed a very thorough audit plan for the future. But now, what do we do with this actual annual audit plan? Okay, we know that we will be evaluated based on this. For some organization, there might be some slight adjustment to be made, but in some other organization, there will be a tremendous impact on the crisis that we're seeing. So before doing anything, before answering this question, we want to make sure that we have something that will be put in place, of course. Before doing anything with your annual audit plan, okay, maybe you want to put it into trash. Some people will say, I don't want to change a dime on it because we think that it's very important. It has been approved before, okay. First, before doing anything with this plan, you want to evaluate the damage and the impacts, okay, on your organization. Is there any damages that or impacts that will be temporary or permanent for your organization? Okay, temporary meaning that maybe some people have been laid off in your organization. Some system will not be, some people will not be able to work from home or remotely. So you might have some discussion to have first. What will be the permanent impact? Okay, maybe temporary but permanent, but something in the midterm. Okay, what will be the impact of a recession that will be following this crisis? Second, you want to assess the change in the risk evaluation and the risk appetite. Okay, the risk that we've seen last month could be obsolete in your organization. It's not a one size fits all. Okay, you want to make sure that you will be able to assess this. So you want to make sure that you will do your risk evaluation, a thorough look, and discuss the risk appetite with management and the audit committee. So that's why it's very important first to communicate with the management and the audit committee to see if the risk evaluation and the risk appetite has been changed tremendously. New risk may have emerged during the last week, and you want to make sure that you have adequate response by the organization and from internal audit as well regarding these new risks. And last but not the least, you want to get a seat at the table. If it's not done already during with the pandemic task force, I'm pretty sure most of your organization may have developed or may have put in place a pandemic task force. Okay, you want to get a seat at the table. Okay, you want to make sure that you will be seen. You want to make sure that you will be hearing things. Okay, you want to make sure that you will be knowing things, the information that is gathered from the organization that is provided to the rest of the organization is adequate and thoroughly looked by management and transmitted adequately to the audit committee as well. Okay? So it's already very difficult for internal auditors sometimes to get the information. So you can imagine what will be the difficulty at this time, and you can always already figure this out, I can guess. During the crisis or the response, how tough it is now to get this information. So if you get a seat at the table, that the chief audit executive get a seat at the table with the pandemic task force, this is already a good start. So before doing anything, you want to have these 4 things into place to make sure that you will be addressing the risk and the situation adequately from the internal audit department. I found this funny because sometimes we say, okay, Sometimes we think that magic will be happening at one point because we don't know the information, but you want to make sure that you're there to get your point of view, okay? You want to make sure that you're an observer. You want to make sure that you could be a good advisor at this time of crisis. But if you don't get the seat at the table, or if your chief audit executive is not seen in the organization, is not a visible actor regarding this crisis, you may have a problem. So I found this image funny because I think we want to make sure that people will be listening to us at this very important step. So the answer to the question, should we keep our annual audit plan? For most of us, it will be a strict no, okay? And we'll see what will be the impact and how we can leverage with this, okay? So we don't want to keep our annual audit plan, but maybe there's something we want to keep, okay? First, I don't want to throw away some engagement related to mandatory and regulatory requirements, okay? I want to avoid to be put into place to say, okay, we didn't provide this these report or these advice or these evaluation to the regulators because they will not give us extension on the regulatory requirements. So we want to keep this into our plan. Second thing we want to keep is advisory service that are adding value to the organization. We're already implicated in some advice. Some of you might be already implicated in advisory services, and we want to keep them if they are still adding value to the organization. You want to make sure that you have assurance engagement who are still strategically relevant. Okay, there's some things that you say, okay, we want to keep into place because I think even though we had something that have changed tremendously in our organization, we still think that these assurance engagement are still strategically relevant to the organization. And of course, if there's any other engagement that are almost completed, you want to make sure that you will be completed them and make sure that you will be giving the results to the audit committee and to the management, because we don't want to waste the resource that or the efforts that the team have put into place in the past weeks or months, depending on the engagement. So these are the ones we want to keep in our planning. Okay, so maybe it will give you a new capacity. Okay, maybe you will say, okay, based on the previous slide that I just showed you, maybe 50% should be kept. Okay, but so what do we do with this new capacity? Okay, where can we add value in the organization? We'll see with the maturity model where we can add value within the organization. Within the inside the internal audit function, okay, maybe we have extra capacity to develop something new, to revisit some processes, or to have more competencies regarding some things that we need to have in the future within internal audit, or to support the organization. We want to make sure that this capacity will be used in a fashionable way. So in the next slide, we will show you where we can add value with the maturity model during the crisis. First, it's very important to keep, maybe you have seen this on the social media, the one on the left here. Where do I want to be during the COVID-19? I really like this model because we look where we've been through some, maybe might have been with the fear zone or the learning zone in the past, but where we want to be during the COVID-19 crisis is really in the growth zone. Okay, so it's important to make sure that if we want to be in the growth zone, that we have an important spirit and other competency during the crisis. I want to remind this to you and for you to make sure that you put this into place in your organization and within your team, and to make sure that your team is acting appropriately during this crisis. Okay, so some competencies or spirit that we want to see. First one is empathy. Okay, some people have lost their jobs. Some people are very frustrated with the situation now. Some people could be a bit older, and it's not change management, and the technology that we are now using might not be adequately supported or might not be enough for them. Okay, so empathy with your clients, empathy with the auditee as well, and empathy with your team to make sure that if some people have been affected the kids are still at home and they need to work like crazy hours. Also, we want to make sure that you have been put this into place. You want to make sure that you recognize the needs of the organization at this time as well. Active listening, like we should be always be doing as internal auditor, but I think in this time of crisis, it's quite important. We want to make sure that we're future focused, we're showing appreciation, and we're showing leadership at this moment. So we want to make sure that we're a present leader as a chief audit executive or as internal auditor as well. Show openness, communication, and creativity. I've put this one at last, but I think they are very important. Openness regarding the situation, regarding the way that control might be changing in your organization, and communication is always one of the best way to show empathy and openness regarding this. And we'll see during the next slide as well how creativity could add to this model as well. So we won't really want to be in the growth zone regarding this, but make sure that we have the actual spirit and competency put into place. So now we'll talk about the internal audit capability model. You can call it maturity model. The official terminology that the IAA has used in the past is the capability model, but for me it's quite a maturity model that we can that I've been using with a lot of organizations that I've been with and consult with as well, and I hope it will be helpful for you to use it as well. I'm going to show you how it's going to be it could be implemented. Okay, so where is it coming from? It's coming from the IAA Institute of Internal Auditor Research Foundation. It's a framework that identifies the fundamentals needed for effective internal auditing. Okay, so you can, I will share the link with you to obtain this book, or there's a part, it's even the part that it's free that you can download from if you're an IAA member as well. And it reflects the leading development in governance, business, and risk management to ensure that it's relevant, useful, practical, and forward thinking. So we'll see how it will be applying to the crisis mode as well. So what is the internal audit capacity model? It's a framework that we were just saying. It could be a communication vehicle. I will show you an example of this. It's as well a roadmap for orderly improvement. If you see that you have some gap with the maturity or capacity model, how can you act upon to make sure that you will be moving forward with the model during the next weeks or so? It's a tool to determine if the internal audit records according to the nature, complexity, and associates risk of its operation. It's an assessment tool, and we'll see how we will be using this as well. And like I was saying before, you identify any gaps between those requirements. Okay, we'll see that you have a maturity model to self-assess maybe yourself regarding where you are right now, where you want to be during the crisis, and maybe after the crisis as well. And you want to make sure that if it's in line, you can assess if it's in line with the requirement from management and the audit committee as well. So we want to make sure that we'll be addressing these gaps as well. So what does it look like? For me, I always like to see something, if somebody can simplify something and put this on one sheet of paper, okay? Not that I'm simple-minded, but I want to make sure that I will be able to understand something on one pages. And you will see how it could be helpful to leverage this regarding the situation right now. So we'll see that on the left, like any other maturity model, you have the level, okay? And we'll see on the top, okay, where you see the service and role of internal audit, people management, and so on. You have the other things that are very important for internal audit. So the key competencies that we want to be tackling through this model as well. If we look at the left side, okay, over here, you will see that you have the different levels, starting with level 1, okay, where there's no sustainable or repeatable capabilities. Level 2, we have some infrastructure, okay, where you have sustainable and repeatable internal audit practices and procedure. Level 3, which is integrated level, where internal audit management and professional practice uniformly applied, okay? So we want to make sure that you obtain this level. Level number 4, where it is managed, where internal audit integrates information from across the organization to improve governance and risk management. So you see that it's more robust. And the level 5, optimizing, where internal audit learning from inside and outside the organization for continuous improvement as well. So this is the left of the matrix. If we look at the top of the matrix, you see the 6 essential elements of internal audit. Okay, the first one is the service and role of internal auditing. We will step and we'll do them one by one in the next slide, where we see people management, professional practices, performance management and accountability of internal audit, organizational relationship and culture, and then we'll step into governance and structures. So when it is populated, this is how it looks like. Okay, this is the matrix. This is the maturity model. Okay, where you see the different level with the different things that are implied within on the top of the screen. Okay, so we'll do them one by one. Okay. In the next slide, we'll try to avoid level 1 and level 2 because they are quite basic. So we want to make sure that we will be playing to leverage the internal audit maturity model with the top 3 level, which is level 3, level 4, and level 5. So question to the participant, you don't need to answer, just need to think maybe a few seconds about it. At which level do you think the IAA standard stands for? Is it at level 1 initial? Is it at level 2 infrastructure, level 3 integrated, level 4 manage, or level 5 optimizing? And the answer is, you want to make sure that you are at least at level 3, okay, to make sure that you are in line with the IAA standards. Okay, level 3 is the integrated mode. Okay, if we look at this on the matrix over here, on the model, on the one-page model, okay, you want to make sure that you will be at least level 1, 2, and 3 regarding the level. Okay, this is where the standards are at. Okay, so this is the bottom line that every internal audit function should be if they want to be in respects with the IAA standards. Okay, maybe not all of you are at this point right now. Okay, so maybe it would be a good tool even to look at the maturity model when you will be looking at this in the future to say, okay, maybe I want to review some of the things that I thought I was in line with the standards, but might not be fully in place. Okay, so there's an assessment that you can do during the crisis as well if you have time to do this. But we want to make sure that we'll be tackling level 3, 4, and 5 during the crisis to make sure that we're adding value to the organization. So for now on, we'll kind of forget level 1 and level 2 and focus on the next 3 levels. So why and when to use the model? Okay, first, it's a good self-assessment for continuous improvement. I've done this in many organizations, and I've used this in many organizations. When you are taking in charge or you're reviewing the strategic planning, maybe for the internal audit function, it's a good self-assessment tool. Okay, it's good to share and communicate your vision regarding this. If you would say, okay, maybe we're at mostly at level 2 everywhere, maybe we want to expand this on some of the competencies that are required regarding governance or regarding the role of internal audit within the organization. Okay, so you want to share and communicate your vision on this one page tool as well. You want to maximize and develop the activity potential. Okay, maybe something has been forgotten. Some things might be good practices that you want to put in place into your organization but are not there permanently. So it could be a good thing to document this and to maximize and develop the activity potential as well. And of course, you want to benchmark with other organizations. You can see that maybe organizations that are similar to you. What we've done over here, I'm working for a university here in Montreal. We have done this evaluation within all the university, and we have shared our result with other university as well Of course, it was always confidential, but we were able to benchmark with other organizations where we were standing as a university here in Montreal, Canada. So now, how to leverage the model during the crisis? Okay, we've seen the model, we've seen the different level that there is. So we see maybe some, it's not one size fits all, but some example on how to leverage the model during the crisis. If you want to do a self-assessment, or if you don't want to do a self-assessment, maybe some example of where you could add value or you can use the model during the crisis. So we'll do them one by one. Let's start with the service and role of internal audit. Okay, let's start at level 3 in the bottom. Okay, you see that level 3, the requirement says that we could be doing some advisory services or performance value for money audits. Okay, this is the top level. If you want to do a self-assessment, you will see that there's a lot of steps involved, but this is the primary goal of level 3 of service and role of internal audit. Okay, opportunities that may arise with this level, okay, is to reassure the stakeholder on how the key controls are operating at the moment. Okay, we're in the crisis mode. Most of us might be in the response, still in the response mode. Okay, some organizations are already in the stabilization mode, but for most of us, we're not in back to business mode. So we see how to reassure the stakeholder on the key control, maybe not all the control, but the key controls, depending on the level you are in the crisis, which level you are in the crisis mode right now. The second one you can do is a third-party audit. There might be some impact, maybe some could go bankrupt, some of your partners that are very important might not be delivering what they should do. And sometimes management have their plates quite full at the moment and they don't have time to do this. Okay, so might be a good thing for you to step into this if you want to give some advisory service, or it could be even assurance engagement related to third-party audit as well. If you want to step into level 4, which is manage, we can do some on the overall assurance on governance, risk management, and controls. Okay, I'm taking into account that most of you might not be in charge of risk management. Some of you might be, or coordinating the process. Maybe daily communication with the second line of defense, and take into account maybe temporary combined reporting to make sure that we're tackling the risk and the key controls together regarding this. Okay, so we want to make sure that if you have not been a tremendous user, or maybe are giving over assurance on the risk in the organization, that you want to be joining the workforce regarding this. And of course, you want to look at new emerging risk and control approach related to teleworking or other key or the risk that might be appearing. Tackling the teleworking right now because there's a lot of data privacy problem that we may see with this. Okay, regarding the technology that we're using, or maybe something on the side that people are using right now. Okay, it's something that we've done in our organization, and the audit committee was quite happy with our results. And if we want to step into level 5, optimizing, okay, we have to ask ourselves, can we play a non-independent role that might be putting us in the red zone? Okay, if we have some competency that could be used at the same time by the organization, can we put our independence on the side for some reason? Maybe you have an expert in data analytics that could help the organization at the moment, not by auditing them. Maybe you can just put this person into the operation. That might be a problem for independence, but you want to make sure that you will be discussing this with the audit committee. So I've discussed with many chief audit executive, and a lot of them are putting their independence on the side, okay? Because you want to be sure that you will be remembered as helpful as you can be. So if you have a resource as good as maybe doing some data analytics and could provide very good work, maybe with his or her competencies with the operation of the first line of defense, you want to make sure that these competencies are not wasted on some audit or some things that it's not important for the organization. So discuss with the audit committee on where you could play a role and where you will be able to put some barrier in the future if you need to audit this in the future. Okay, so don't be shy to put your independence role on the side if there needs to be in your organization, because that's where you will be remembered in the future, and that this is very important for me. Stepping into people management, level 3. Okay, you want to make sure that you have you have team building and competency, professionally qualified staff, and workforce coordination. Now would be a very good time to get your certification. And I'm not only saying this because I'm giving training regarding this. This is the perfect time to do this. Okay, this will may become a prerequisite in the future to make sure that, okay, maybe we've reduced the staff of internal audit in our department, but we want to make sure that we're keeping the ones that are certified at the moment, whether the CIA, the CISA, the CFA, the CFE. Okay, this will become more and more important in the future. So maybe it's a good timing now if we want to use this capacity to say, okay, to the people, maybe you should maybe put 1 day per week if we have time for your auditors to start working on your certification, okay, if you still have time to do this. Okay, so for me, we have integrated this in our planning, in our new capacity, to make sure that there's no excuses for not getting the certification in the future. Level 4, we want to contribute to the management development. So why not do, if there is times be, okay, management employee training, or create awareness programs or video. Okay, if people have time to get the training right now, it will be a very good time to give some training regarding internal control, fraud prevention, fraud awareness, cyber security awareness. Okay, so maybe it would be a good time, and some government are giving as well subsidies to train management and employee at the moment. So internal audit could play a different role into this. If people, they don't have time to get the training, or the management or the employee, they're too busy tackling the crisis right now, you can create awareness programs or video for the future. So when we'll be stabilizing and being back to business in a few weeks or months, maybe it will be a helpful tool for them to look at. Okay, so if you have the capacity to do this, that might be a good thing to do. And of course, if you want to step into the level 5 optimizing, where we're showing leadership involvement with professional practice, I want to make sure to apply best practices framework on crisis management. Okay, take a look at this. You want to evaluate how internal audit is using a certain framework on crisis management, and if there is any crisis management mode that you could be auditing as well within your organization, because sometimes we want to use frameworks, and there's several frameworks that you can use on the market now to make sure that you could, if you don't have one, maybe ask your external auditor if they have one. Most of them will be able to help you finding one that is suitable to your team or to your organization as well. Now stepping into professional practice. Okay, we want to make sure that the professional practice will be kept or be even moving forward during this crisis mode. Okay, we want to make sure that we at level 3 that we are reassessing risk with and priority with the management and the audit committee. Okay, we want to make sure that we have the risk-based audit plans, of course, but we want to make sure that we are in line with the with what are the priority of management and the audit committee. What do we want to keep? What do we want to add? Maybe if there's some risk that are arised. What do we want to push in the future because we still think it's valuable, but we have some scope limitation now? Or what do you want to eliminate because now it's not part of the actual strategy? But keep your team busy. You have this actual new capacity that you have maybe built into your organization, and you want to keep your team busy. Okay, so that's the basic thing for this one. If you want to step at level 4, okay, you want to make sure that your audit strategy lever the organization management of risk. So now could be a good time to streamline your internal audit processes. Okay, now we cannot waste many weeks in auditing something. Information needs to get right away. Okay, people need to have the information yesterday. Okay, so maybe you should streamline your internal audit process for the audit that you're doing right now, or maybe for the future, for the one that you will be able to maybe convert into more efficient operation as well. And maybe it could be a good time to do some cross-training within the organization, within your department. Okay, some people from IT audit could be giving some training to the one that are doing operational, the operational to the financial audit, and financial audit to IT. So it's very a good time to use this capacity to do some cross-training. And of course, at level 5, you want to define the lessons learned from continuous improvement regarding the way that you've managed a crisis, and prepare for strategy for the new normal. Okay. When will be the new normal? Maybe you're still in crisis response or stabilization at the moment, but when you will be back to business, what will be the new normal for you? Okay. Maybe you will have new budget, new requirement, you need to shift maybe the way that you will be using your budget, because you cannot afford to have a team of 20 auditors. But regarding the regarding the resources, what would be the opportunity for you to review and to prepare for your strategy for the new normal as well? Now we'll be sticking into performance management and accountability. We cannot expect to throw maybe half of the audit plan or some part of the audit plan and keep the same way of doing things as in the past. We cannot keep the same performance indicator. The accountability should be very different. So if we want to look at level 3, some information that we were giving on a quarterly basis might be needed on a weekly or monthly basis. So giving monthly or weekly or monthly reports to management and the audit committee might be a new requirement for the crisis as well. And of course, you want to evaluate at level 4 and level 5, okay, regarding the performance measure and the outcome of performance and value to the organization achieved. You want to reevaluate the performance measures with new KPIs. You may have now some KPIs will be on the short-term basis, mid-term basis, and long-term basis. So might be a good thing for you to look at the one at least on the short-term and the mid-term basis, to make sure that you are applying the right strategy according to the performance of your departments. So I cannot stand more on this, because I think it's very important for you to react based on this, and you cannot work anymore with the old KPIs that you were using maybe just only a month ago. And regarding governance structures, okay, at level 3, you want to make sure that of course, you are coordinating with other line of defense. Maybe you need to review some of the priorities with them, okay, related to regulation, regarding to key controls, and regarding to the way that we are doing now, okay. We want to make sure that if there's some red tape that needs to be done, or maybe you want to streamline some processes within the organization. I've seen this in my organization during the past week. I would say, okay, we need to be more faster to do this new process of approval now. So Daniel, please help us reviewing this process. And of course, we will putting our advisory cap to make sure that we will be helping them. Okay. And sometimes we see that their risk appetite will shift, but you need to make sure that you will be reacting promptly as an internal auditor to make sure that it's within the risk appetite of the organization. Level 4, you want to get a seat at the table for business continuity effort as an observer or advisory. I cannot, it is one of the things that is most important at the moment. If you don't have this seat at the table, get this seat at the table. Okay, you want to make sure that you're visible, your observer, advisory, if there needs to be, but we will get this communication and this information that you need to make sure that you will be leveraging the internal audit function at this time. And of course, at level 5, we've spoke about it with the first one. You want to make sure that the risk and opportunity to step in the red zone. Okay, if you have to put on hold your independence with some people, with some activity, okay, you need to discuss, to have the audit committee blessing to do this. Okay, so this is where you will show power and authority of the internal audit activity regarding governance, but you want to make sure that you have discarded this information and obtain the blessing from the audit committee, okay? Because now you want to add value to the organization, You have, of course, you need to have the competency to do so, but you want to make sure that you will be disclosing this information and obtaining the audit committee blessing on this. So a few minutes to conclude, okay? Again, the internal audit capability model during the crisis, okay? It's a framework that is recognized for the chief audit executive who want to improve the internal audit activity during the crisis. Of course, it enables the internal audit activity to be more performing. Okay, we've seen that, okay, maybe we want to make sure that we have at least level 1 and 2 and 3 to make sure that we are applying the standards, but we want to play a different role to add value to the organization and making sure that we are stepping out of maybe of the box or our comfort zone and make sure that we're tackling the level 4 and 5 at the same time as well. And it's a simple but powerful communication tool to make sure that you will be seeing this, okay? Some organization has, okay, I'm using this tool, okay? It's a very strong visual perspective, okay? It's only one sheet of paper, and sometimes you can identify where you were before the crisis if you have done this self-assessment, where you will be your priority during the crisis, okay? If you are in crisis or response mode, and well, you will be working after the crisis as a strategic leverage with the crisis to make sure that when you're in stabilization or back to business, this is what you want to tackle. Okay, it's only a visual, might be different from organization to organization, and you want to make sure that you have this visual. So when the audit committee and management, when they can see this on a sheet of paper, and it's a recognized framework and model for the future, you want to make sure that you will be able to share this with them as well. So to answer back this question, where was internal audit during the crisis? I think it's very important for you to understand where you were during the crisis. Okay, we've seen some example. You will see maybe in the future if you want to download the information regarding the capability model to do this self-assessment yourself and see where some example where you can add value and where to make sure that to be answering this question quite right when it will be asked after the crisis. So to come back to the first logo that we've seen in the past, who do I want to be during the COVID-19? Okay, I've put like 5 key things that I think that's very important for you during this crisis and to make sure that we'll be addressing the new normal and to be in the growth zone in the future. First, you want to make sure that you address the new risk in a different way. Okay, and some people might say, oh, I'm doing 95% of my work or my engagement now in assurance mode. So maybe you want to step in non-assurance mode, being advisory, step into the operation for some organization where you want to put your independence on the side, and if you have the competency as well. So you want to address these new risks with non-assurance if there needs to be. So you might be able have to step into your comfort zone if you're not there yet. Of course, you don't want to jeopardize management actions to meet artificial targets. Okay, if some people are still thinking about, okay, we want to make sure that there will be no change to the audit plan and we want to still do it, and we are putting into jeopardy the management action only to meet our artificial target, we need to review these targets. Okay, we don't want to jump into a situation where you will say, okay, well, internal audit was not helpful at us. We were wasting time working with them during the crisis because they are asking all these silly questions only to meet artificial targets. Still, you want to put in place a new plan that will be meeting the new risk, but don't put artificial targets that are not required for the organization. It's very important for the chief audit executive to be a visible leader in a virtual world. Okay, where still most of us are working from home and it's quite difficult to get the good communication, but you want to remain visible. Sometimes it could be through informal discussion, informal meetings as well, to make sure that you're visible and in this virtual world as a chief audit executive and as a leader as well. A thing that I've seen that it's quite popular now is a lot of internal audit are saying what are the 5 key risks and focus on them right now, okay? And to maybe have a brainstorm with the internal audit team and management and the audit committee as well to see where and how internal audit can add value on these risks, okay? And you will see that in most of the time, sometimes it will be in assurance mode, but most of the time it will be through consulting operation as well. Okay, so if you're able to identify these 5 key risks on a short-term basis and see where and how internal audit can add value now, not add value in few months, but add value now, make sure that you will be communicating this action plan as well. And of course, you want to put in place short-term KPIs on internal audit crisis management. We've seen that, okay, maybe a lot of your priority may have shifted during the past week. For most of you, it is the case. But put these new KPIs in terms of internal audit crisis management. Some organizations say, okay, we cannot do business as usual, so we want to make sure that 10% of our staff will be through cross-training, or to train maybe management, or to develop training awareness program for the future. So see where your capacity lies for the next weeks or months, because we don't, for most of the organization, most of the country now, we're still in the gray zone where we're trying to see where will we be back to business, but depending on the model, the industry, and the country, it's quite difficult now to see when it will become back to business. Okay, so put in place these short-term KPIs on internal audit crisis management. Just want to leave you with useful links. Okay, the internal audit capability model. Okay, that you can look at. Okay, on the IAA website, and value proposition of internal auditing and the internal audit capability model, which is also on the internal IAA website as well. Okay, some other links that might be useful that I've not put in over here. You will, if you look at the IAA website for global, there is a COVID-19 blog. There's some resources as well for business continuity audit, business continuity management as well. So the IAA has created the COVID-19 section where it's very easy to look at and really easy to obtain the information. And some links that you might be see, okay, what will be crisis management framework? You can call your external auditor or look at with some on the internet or with some of the top 5 maybe consultant group. They will be able to help you to say, okay, which framework should I be using regarding crisis management? And you will understand with this crisis management mode what will be the key activities regarding crisis mode, depending at which level you are at now. I just want to take a few minutes to give you more information about our next CIE seminars. I think it's the appropriate timing to look at certification, and CIE, of course, is the cornerstone or the flagship certification for internal auditors. We're starting a session this Sunday, April 19. Okay, it's a 4-day training, and we'll be tackling CIE Part 1 and Part 2. And it's always a good thing to do. I think most of the time we're doing this on public, but now we have to switch, of course, and adapt and to be agile and do it with live virtual training like we are doing right now. Okay, so it's very interesting because you will see what will be the tips to make sure that we will be tackling the CIE exam for the first one and the second one. We'll do some questions, some training as well, and a lot of information that will be helping you be successful with the CIE exam. So it's starting, the next section is starting this Sunday. So now I want to step into the question zone. I want to look at some questions that we may have from the from people who have put some question over here. Okay, I want to look at this. Okay. Okay. First question I want to say, okay, is it long to do the self-assessment regarding the maturity model. It's not very long. Okay, you can download the information, or you can ask us to do this with you as well, or to help you with this. Okay, could they maybe doing it some few days if you want to do a thorough one. But if you just want to use the model to see what could be the good example where we can ask this, maybe you can ask your team or to create a task force within the organization to make sure that you will be looking at this on a fashionable way, and make sure that we'll be developing the action plan regarding this. Okay, this presentation will be shared with you, and you will have the link to look at this if they want to look at this again, I think on YouTube. And this one will be you will be able to do this in the future with your team. Next one, we have a question regarding, okay, which one of the component we should be tackling first. Okay, I just want to go back maybe with the model and a few slides before. Okay, you want to make sure that you'll be starting with the service and role of internal audit. Okay, if you want to work on the other 5, okay, you want to make sure that you will be stepping with the service and role of internal audit. Okay, you want to make sure that internal audit is, of course, is with level 2. Of course, you may have done some compliance audit in the second level. You want to make sure that you are tackling level 3, advisory service if it's not the case, or performance of value for money audits. Okay, if you have not done advisory service in the past, you want to make sure that you'll be tackling this with your key internal auditor or more senior internal auditor in the future. Okay, you want to make sure that you'll be tackling this during the crisis, because this is where you will add value for most of the organization regarding this. Okay, at level 4, overall assurance on governance, risk management, and control. Okay, how can you give this overall assurance if you're not there yet? Okay, that might be something that you want to tackle during the crisis, and maybe takes this time to elaborate on the governance, risk management, and controls activities that are actually happening in your organization, and work as a team partner with them as well. And of course, you want to make sure that during the crisis or after the crisis, you are in the service and role of internal audit, stepping into level 5 to make sure that you are recognized as a key agent of change as well. I think that's most of the question that we've received so far. Okay, so if there's no more question, I will just leave this to you and with Katerina to close the session as well.
Well, thank you, Daniel, very much for this. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. You can feel free, you have my email, feel free to ask any additional questions that you might have. Also, as Daniel mentioned, we'll have the webinar on YouTube. We'll send you the link as well, together with the presentation and everything. And as I mentioned, if you have any additional questions, feel free to let me know, and we'll try to answer them all. Thank you very much, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Take care. Bye-bye.